While most car companies are busy shouting about massive screens, futuristic dashboards, and bold promises that may or may not age well, Toyota did something very different. Almost quietly, they rolled out a version of the Tacoma that doesn't scream for attention, yet somehow has the entire pickup truck world watching closely. At first glance, it looks tougher, wider, and more serious than before. But that's not the part that has competitors uneasy. The real shift happened beneath the surface, where Toyota changed just enough to redefine what a modern work truck is supposed to be. And once you understand what they've done here, it becomes clear why this update isn't just another refresh. It's a warning. The Tacoma didn't earn its reputation overnight. This truck has been around for decades, and from the very beginning, it was never about flash. It was about dependability. When the Tacoma first entered the market in the mid-90s, it wasn't the fastest or the most exciting pickup on the road, but it had something far more valuable. It showed up every morning, did the job, and refused to quit. As trends changed and competitors reinvented themselves again and again, the Tacoma stayed rooted in one idea: build something that lasts longer than expectations. That consistency is exactly why it didn't fade away when others did. And it's also why Toyota didn't feel the need to make noise when this new version arrived. Most brands today rely on hype. Teasers leak months in advance. Social media fills with bold claims. Expectations are inflated before anyone even touches the steering wheel. Toyota took the opposite route. No dramatic countdown. No exaggerated promises. They simply kept refining the Tacoma in the background, learning how real people actually use it. Farmers, contractors, off-road workers. People who don't care about trends because their truck isn't a lifestyle accessory. It's a tool. And while others chased attention, Toyota was watching quietly. That's where the real advantage started forming. Under the hood, the Tacoma tells a very different story than it used to. For years, people accepted that this truck was slow but unbreakable, reliable but never thrilling. This time, Toyota shifted the formula. Instead of relying on large, naturally aspirated engines, they moved toward turbocharging, not to chase speed, but to unlock torque. And torque is what actually matters when you're hauling, towing, or crawling up uneven terrain. This engine doesn't need to be pushed hard to perform. It responds early, delivers power smoothly, and stays composed under pressure. That alone puts it ahead of many pickups that still focus more on numbers than real-world behavior. What surprised many people, though, was Toyota's decision to lean into hybrid support without making it the headline. The hybrid system here isn't trying to impress anyone. It doesn't beg for attention. It works in the background, assisting the engine when extra effort is required. That means smoother acceleration, less strain, and improved efficiency without changing how the truck feels to drive. Toyota understands that new technology only matters if it makes life easier, not more complicated. This system doesn't demand learning. It simply blends in, which is exactly why it works. That same philosophy carries into durability. Pickup trucks live hard lives. Heat, dust, mud, weight, and constant use destroy vehicles that look good on paper. Toyota knows this, which is why cooling, structural reinforcement, and long-term stress management were priorities here. This isn't about how the truck feels in its first year. It's about how it feels 5 or 10 years later. And that's where many competitors quietly fall behind. Visually, the new Tacoma looks more aggressive, but not for show. The wider stance improves stability. The reinforced body adds strength where it matters. Ground clearance remains practical, not exaggerated. Every design choice serves a purpose. This truck is built to stay upright under load, remain controlled on uneven ground, and resist damage where other vehicles start to feel fragile. It doesn't try to look intimidating. It looks prepared. Inside, the story continues. There's no unnecessary luxury here. No overwhelming screens or distracting gimmicks. Everything is placed with intention. Controls are easy to reach. Buttons are usable, even with gloves on. Materials are chosen for durability, not shine. This interior isn't designed to impress passengers for 5 minutes. It's designed to support drivers who spend entire days behind the wheel. Toyota understood that comfort doesn't come from excess. It comes from things working exactly when you need them to. The technology follows that same quiet logic. Driver assistance systems exist, but they don't interrupt. Off-road information is available, but not intrusive. The truck doesn't try to think for you. It works with you. That balance is rare today, especially when so many vehicles feel like they're competing with the driver instead of supporting them. This becomes even more obvious when people compare the Tacoma to the Ford Ranger. On paper, the Ranger often looks impressive. Strong acceleration, modern features, but when used day after day for demanding work, the difference in philosophy becomes clear. The Tacoma delivers usable power earlier without stress. It feels calmer under load, more predictable, more trustworthy. While the Ranger can feel exciting, it doesn't offer the same long-term reassurance. And for people who rely on their truck to earn a living, reassurance matters more than excitement. Reliability is where the Tacoma truly separates itself. Stories of Tacomas crossing hundreds of thousands of miles without major issues aren't rare. They're common. That reputation didn't come from marketing. It came from years of consistency. The Ranger isn't unreliable, but it doesn't inspire the same confidence. Add resale value into the equation, and the gap widens further. Even older Tacomas retain strong market demand because buyers trust them. That trust has a measurable price. The conversation becomes even more interesting when electric pickups enter the picture. Vehicles like the BYD Shark look impressive, and they represent where the industry is heading. Quiet operation, instant response, advanced technology. But reality hasn't caught up to ambition yet. Range anxiety is still real. Charging infrastructure remains inconsistent, especially in rural and work-heavy areas. And long-term durability under constant load is still a question mark. For people who use a pickup as a tool, uncertainty isn't acceptable. That's why the Tacoma continues to win. Fuel is available everywhere. Repairs are familiar. Behavior is predictable. There's no anxiety about running out of charge in the middle of nowhere. This doesn't mean electric pickups don't have a future. They absolutely do. But today, trust still outweighs innovation, and the Tacoma has been earning that trust for decades. Toyota's real strength has always been patience. They don't build vehicles for applause. They build them for longevity. While others pivot rapidly, Toyota refines carefully. The Tacoma isn't chasing fashion. It's reinforcing fundamentals: strength, balance, reliability, ease of ownership. That's why this update matters more than it appears. It isn't loud, but it's strategic. In a market obsessed with what's next, the Tacoma quietly reminds everyone what actually works. And that might be the most disruptive move of all. And here's the part most people overlook. The Tacoma isn't just built for American roads or American habits. Its influence is already spreading far beyond that. In markets across Latin America, Australia, parts of Asia, and the Middle East, pickup trucks aren't lifestyle vehicles. They're survival tools. People depend on them in places where roads are unpredictable, maintenance support is limited, and vehicles are expected to last far longer than 5 or 6 years. That's exactly where the Tacoma's reputation quietly carries weight. Buyers in these regions don't care about trends. They care about whether the truck will still be running when everything else around it is worn out. And that's why Toyota's decisions here matter globally, not just locally. While some brands are steadily turning pickups into luxury statements, Toyota is holding the line on what a pickup actually is: a machine built to be used, abused, and trusted. That decision may not dominate headlines, but it shapes buyer behavior over time. People talk. Mechanics notice. Resale markets respond. And eventually, competitors are forced to react. That's when quiet decisions start to look very loud in hindsight. This is also why the Tacoma continues to sit at the center of so many comparisons. Against the Ford Ranger, it's not about which truck feels faster on an empty road. It's about which one still feels solid after years of work. Against electric newcomers, like the BYD Shark, it's not about rejecting the future. It's about acknowledging that the present still has demands that batteries and infrastructure haven't fully solved yet. Toyota isn't betting against change. They're just refusing to rush it. While some brands are steadily turning pickups into luxury statements, Toyota is holding the line on what a pickup actually is: a machine built to be used, abused, and trusted. That decision may not dominate headlines, but it shapes buyer behavior over time. People talk. Mechanics notice. Resale markets respond. And eventually, competitors are forced to react. That's when quiet decisions start to look very loud in hindsight. This is also why the Tacoma continues To sit at the center of so many comparisons against the Ford Ranger, it's not about which truck feels faster on an empty road. It's about which one still feels solid after years of work. Against electric newcomers like the BYD Shark, it's not about rejecting the future. It's about acknowledging that the present still has demands that batteries and infrastructure haven't fully solved yet. Toyota isn't betting against change. They're just refusing to rush it. What makes the Tacoma truly different is that it doesn't ask the driver to adapt to it. The truck adapts to the driver, whether that means hauling equipment every day, navigating uneven terrain, or simply starting reliably in the morning without drama. That predictability creates confidence. And confidence is addictive. Once someone experiences it, they rarely want to give it up. Toyota understands something many companies forget. Trends expire. Screens date quickly. Software becomes obsolete. But mechanical trust compounds over time. Every year, a Tacoma survives without issue adds to its legend. Every owner who passes it down or sells it at a strong price reinforces the message. This truck isn't impressive because it's new. It's impressive because it stays relevant. That's why this update isn't about redefining the Tacoma. It's about protecting what made it successful in the first place, while quietly strengthening it for the future. Toyota didn't reinvent the wheel. They reinforced it. And in a world chasing constant reinvention, that restraint might be their smartest move yet. So while others compete for attention, Toyota continues to build loyalty. While others promise tomorrow, the Tacoma delivers today. And when you step back and look at the bigger picture, it becomes clear that this truck isn't just surviving in a changing market. It's setting the standard for what a pickup should still be when the noise fades. If you value real-world performance over hype, long-term reliability over short-term excitement, and honest engineering over flashy promises, then the Tacoma's story makes a lot more sense. And it also explains why, despite all the new names entering the segment, this truck remains the one others quietly measure themselves against. If you want more breakdowns like this that cut through the noise and focus on what actually matters, make sure you're subscribed. Because in a market full of promises, the truth is becoming harder to find. That's exactly why it matters. And one last thing that rarely gets talked about is how Toyota's restraint is actually forcing the entire pickup market to slow down and rethink its direction. When one brand proves that buyers still reward durability, simplicity, and long-term trust, it exposes how fragile hype-driven strategies really are. Flashy launches may grab attention for a year or two, but trucks like the Tacoma shape buying habits over decades. That kind of influence doesn't show up in advertisements. It shows up in driveways, job sites, and resale listings years later. This is why the Tacoma doesn't need to convince people it's tough. Its reputation does that work on its own. Every generation builds on the last, quietly correcting weaknesses without abandoning the core identity. There's no identity crisis here, no sudden personality shift, just steady refinement. And in an industry that constantly reinvents itself, that consistency becomes a form of power. What Toyota has done with this Tacoma update isn't flashy, but it's strategic. They've added strength without adding fragility. They've introduced technology without sacrificing familiarity. They've increased capability without overcomplicating ownership. That balance is incredibly difficult to achieve and even harder to maintain. Most brands either overshoot or play it too safe. Toyota walked the narrow line between the two. And that's why this truck feels different. Not because it tries to impress you in the first 5 minutes, but because it earns your trust over time. It doesn't promise perfection. It promises reliability. And then it quietly delivers on it year after year. In the end, the new Tacoma isn't trying to dominate conversations. It's positioning itself to outlast them. Long after trends shift, charging standards change, and dashboards look outdated, this truck is built to keep doing what it's always done, work without excuses. That's the real reason this update matters. Not because it's revolutionary on the surface, but because it reinforces a philosophy that most brands have slowly drifted away from. And once you see that, it becomes clear why this quiet update has everyone else paying attention. And if you zoom out even further, this is where the Tacoma's real advantage becomes impossible to ignore. Toyota isn't building for headlines or quarterly reactions. They're building for the owner who will still be driving this truck when the excitement around today's trends has completely disappeared. That mindset changes everything. It affects how parts are chosen, how systems are tuned, and how risks are evaluated. Toyota would rather delay a feature than release something that might fail under pressure. That patience frustrates critics in the short term, but it rewards owners in the long run. This is also why so many Tacoma owners become repeat buyers. Once someone experiences a vehicle that simply refuses to become a problem, it changes their expectations forever. They stop asking how exciting a truck feels and start asking how dependable it is. That shift in mindset is exactly what Toyota understands better than most. The Tacoma isn't built to impress someone for a test drive. It's built to earn respect slowly, day after day. And that's the part that quietly unsettles competitors. Because excitement fades. New technology becomes old technology. But trust is incredibly difficult to take away once it's earned. Every time a Tacoma survives another harsh winter, another overloaded trailer, or another year of rough work, it reinforces an image that marketing alone can't create. So when people say this update is just another Tacoma, they're missing the point. That's exactly why it works. Toyota didn't try to redefine the pickup truck. They doubled down on what made one successful in the first place. Strength without ego. Technology without dependency. Progress without recklessness. In a world where everything is racing toward the future, the Tacoma quietly proves that moving carefully can sometimes get you further. And that's why this truck isn't just keeping up with the industry. It's reminding the industry what actually matters when the noise fades and only the work remains. And that's where the story truly comes full circle. The Tacoma doesn't exist to win arguments online or dominate spec sheets for a single news cycle. It exists to solve a problem that hasn't changed in decades. People need a truck they can depend on without thinking twice. A truck that doesn't demand constant attention, updates, or explanations. A truck that simply works, even when conditions are far from ideal. Toyota understands that for many owners, a pickup isn't a passion project. It's part of their routine. It starts early in the morning, it carries weight. It takes abuse. And at the end of the day, it's expected to be ready to do it all again tomorrow. The Tacoma doesn't ask for praise for doing this. It treats it as the baseline expectation. That's why this update matters more than it appears. It isn't dramatic. It isn't loud. But it reinforces a standard that's becoming rare. While the industry experiments, Toyota reinforces fundamentals. While others chase attention, the Tacoma builds loyalty. And over time, loyalty always proves more powerful than excitement. So when people ask why this truck continues to dominate conversations without ever trying to dominate attention, the answer is simple. It delivers where it counts. Quietly, consistently, relentlessly, and in a market full of promises about the future. The Tacoma's greatest strength might be that it never forgets the present. And that's the part most people don't realize until much later. The Tacoma isn't competing with other trucks on who looks the boldest today. It's competing on who will still be trusted tomorrow, while others gamble on rapid change. Toyota bets on certainty, and in industries built around hard work and real responsibility, certainty always wins in the end. This truck doesn't try to redefine what a pickup should be every few years. It reinforces the idea that a pickup's value is measured in years of service, not minutes of excitement. When everything else feels uncertain, vehicles like the Tacoma become anchors. They remove one variable from an already demanding life. You don't worry about it. You rely on it. That's why this quiet update has such a loud impact. It reminds buyers, competitors, and the entire industry that progress doesn't always mean replacing what works. Sometimes it means protecting it, strengthening it, and letting it evolve naturally. Toyota understood that, and the Tacoma is the result. So while the market debates what the future of pickups should look like, the Tacoma continues doing what it's always done, showing up, holding its ground, and proving that real strength doesn't need to announce itself. And when the noise fades, when trends shift again, and when today's big promises are tested by time, this truck will still be there, working, waiting, and quietly setting the standard all over.